A Supreme Court decision on school choice has both sides declaring victory. We break down the ruling and explain why education savings accounts are far from dead in Nevada.
If you get the chance to take on Capitol Hill and go to Congress, what would be the top issue you would want to take on?
Well, I think we need to protect Social Security and protect Medicare.
I sit down with congressional candidate Jackie Rosen to talk about the issues and her congressional race.
And George Knapp tells us what's in his inbox this political season in a special commentary.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now with Steve Sebelius and Patrick Walker.
Well, the state Supreme Court has finally ruled on 2 lawsuits that challenge the constitutionality of the education savings accounts, and both sides are declaring victory. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Sebelius.
And I'm Patrick Walker. Now, the program is effectively on hold, but it's not dead. ESAs allow parents to use the public funding allocated to their kids and take it to pay for, among other things, private schools. The program itself was ruled constitutional, but the way it was funded by the legislature was not. Lawmakers must change that mechanism if they want the program to continue. Here's how both sides are spinning it.
The program has completely been halted. That money is not going to leave the hands of public school children.
ESAs are about money, and if they've approved the constitutionality of the statute without providing the funding, then we have a problem.
Well, State Treasurer Dan Schwartz, who administers the program, says he will ask for the legislature to address a potential fix during that special session coming up for the stadium. However, Governor Brian Sandoval tells me he has not made a decision whether or not it will be included on that agenda. So, Steve, they have to wait for the legislature, but could the interim finance committee possibly tackle this before then?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think so. It's getting very complicated. They need to approve a dedicated account, a source of funds, and under this ruling, it can't be funds that they took out of the distributive schools account. So it's going to be a much more complicated solution, I think, than just moving a little bit of money around.
And there is still a component that's waiting. 8,000 parents have already signed up. The state treasurer's office says they're going to continue taking applications. Is that something that should be put on hold?
Well, I think in this case that they could still get it going this year if they do what you're talking about and have that done during the special session. The real problem is this. If you ask lawmakers to address it in a special session, you get to use the current Republican majority to pass it. But you run into objections from Democrats. And don't forget, this program passed with no Democratic votes whatsoever. But if you wait until 2017 and Democrats take over, they may not fund it at all, which means it really could be dead. So you've got a kind of a thorny decision that the governor has to make.
Thus, reason he doesn't say completely one way or the other that he will or will not. It sounds like he still has a decision to make.
Right, he sure does. Well, name recognition has played a large part in the Congressional District 3 race between Democrat Jackie Rosen and Republican Danny Tarkanian. Tarkanian has a lot of it, and Rosen doesn't.
I sat down with Rosen earlier this week and asked her about that and a host of other issues. Here's the interview. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us. Jackie Rosen, a congressional candidate in CD3. I think the first thing I want to talk about, we've had a chance to sit down with you before, and we're so happy you joined us again, but a couple of issues that you had yet to form an opinion on, we want to go back and see. So we talked about the recreational pot initiative as one of them. So tell me a little bit about what you think about the initiative that's on the ballot here as question 2. Are you in favor, or are you not in favor of recreational marijuana here in Nevada?
Well, seeing as it looks like it's going to pass in California, I think that we should be in favor of it here because we need to be sure that it's regulated properly. As a mom, I want to be sure that the issues about edibles, the issues about driving, acting while impaired, all that's addressed and all that is properly regulated and the same way that we do drunk driving and some of those things. So I think we need to be proactive. People are going to be coming here from California, and we need to have the proper laws to take care of it.
If you get the chance to take on Capitol Hill and go to Congress, what would be the top issue you would want to take on?
Well, I think we need to protect Social Security and protect Medicare. My extreme opponent, Danny Tarkanian, wants to privatize Social Security, raise the retirement age, and voucherize Medicare. You know, I took care of my parents and my in-laws as they aged. They went through Social Security and Medicare and so many challenges. And I can tell you that Social Security was a promise that they paid into their entire lives. It's a promise we need to keep. And as far as Medicare, if you've had, unfortunately, an aging parent or grandparent, as they may go through dementia or Alzheimer's or failing eyesight, you know, I wish everybody could be Betty White when they're 94, but they're not. Their ability to shop for prescription drugs or for health care, for a doctor like you and I might shop for a dress on the internet, it's just not going to happen. So we need to protect our seniors.
In working with Congresswoman Titus, if you're there, if Donald Trump wins, several issues are at stake. One of the biggest ones for Nevadans, immigration reform. How do you work with the Republicans to try to get anything done if you're in a position where maybe the House is still in the minority and Donald Trump is the president?
I don't want to live in the world where Donald Trump is the president. As we saw last night on the debates, he's particularly unqualified, unprepared with his hateful, hurtful, extreme rhetoric. Again, my opponent, Danny Tarkanian, stands alongside him. So what I'm hoping is that as a common sense Democrat, we can work across the aisle. I'm willing to sit in front of anybody's door just to make sure they come out and have a conversation with me, because when you're elected to the House of Representatives, what that means is you have to represent everyone. And you need to listen to all those stories. So I fully support comprehensive immigration reform with an earned path to citizenship. It's what we need to do. We need to protect and secure our borders, be tough on that, and have comprehensive reform that lifts 11 million people, takes them out of the shadows, and allows them to be productive citizens of the United States.
Obviously, when you look across the gamut of the makeup of Congress, there are moderate Republicans, there are hardline right Republicans. What can you say to at least the Republicans who can help you to get that done? Is there anything you can say?
Well, I think it all starts with the conversation. Right now, the reason people are dissatisfied with government is people are going into their respective corners and not coming out. So you begin with the conversation. Immigration reform is multiple pieces. Said it is securing your borders. It is worrying about the vetting process. It is looking at how you are sure that someone becomes a citizen. So you need to take all of that, decide what you need to do, but the most important thing is that when we bring 11 million people out of the shadows and into the workforce, they're going to begin to pay taxes. They're going to be able to support the schools, be full members of our community like they want to be. That's going to make America stronger and all of our communities stronger. I think we'll be better for it. We're a nation of immigrants.
Do you think you can make that argument to Republicans?
I'm sure going to try.
We've seen a big topic in the debates now. We've seen coming up trade deals, good, bad, whatever. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP. This is one President Obama has been pushing. Hillary Clinton has shown that's not necessarily something she is for. What side do you come down on?
Well, this is somewhere where I disagree with the president, because I'm going to oppose bad trade deals. Bad trade deals that they don't have a level playing field for our workers. They gut the American middle class, and they help to ship jobs overseas. I want to be sure that any trade deal we have guarantees work for Americans and disincentivizes people to ship their factories or their manufacturing in other places. I want to see things made in America by our American workers.
Is there too much public land in federal government control?
I don't think so.
Here in Nevada?
Here in Nevada. I think that we have to look at individual parcels and where they are. If you're talking about Gold Butte, I think that needs to be protected. If you're talking about perhaps warehouses or things that government owns that they're not using, perhaps we can sell those to local communities and they can repurpose them. I think, again, you have to look at each community and what's surrounding it.
Considering the differences, I'll ask this lastly, are there any spots of common ground that you have with your opponent?
You know, I'm sure we both love our families, we love our children, we love our parents, and we love our community. I don't doubt that. But his views are too extreme and too radical for the common sense district that we are. So you can be a good person, you can be a good citizen. We differ on the ideas, we differ on the way to do it. I believe he's too extreme. That's why the last 4 or 5 times he's lost. And I think when we do debate down here in Las Vegas, in our district, that will become abundantly clear.
Well, the polls have consistently showed that Danny Tarkanian has been ahead, but is there ground now that she can make up?
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, I just saw, in fact, her first bio spot. It's really good. It has to do with technology. That's her forte with computer programming. The trouble is, is anybody going to listen to an ad about a very nice person amidst all these other ads
right.
about everybody else is corrupt and the worst thing ever? So we've got to kind of balance whether that can break through.
And we also are seeing the first poll. It's by the DCCC, however, showing that she does have a lead.
Yeah, absolutely. So that you have to take into consideration that that's a Democratic poll, but it's the polling in those congressional districts is very scarce and very expensive to do because the sample sizes are so small.
So we'll see if that trend continues in the polls leading up to the election. No doubt there will be more coming. Well, increasingly desperate and frequent candidate calls for cash are on the rise, and George Knapp breaks down what's in his inbox next.
Who does Congressman Heck think he is?
Heck wanted to make abortions illegal.
Even in cases of rape or the health of the mother.
Heck would take away our rights.
Heck wants to pass a law that would criminalize doctors.
He was willing to shut down the government over Planned Parenthood funding.
Heck even opposes ensuring equal pay for women.
Who does Congressman Heck think he is?
He's just another Washington politician who's part of the problem.
DSCC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I'm Joe Heck, and I approve this message.
What would happen to you if you spent 174 days away from work? You'd be fired, but not Catherine Cortez Masto. As Attorney General, Cortez Masto spent 174 days away from work on special interest and taxpayer-funded trips to places like Switzerland, Argentina, and Hawaii with lobbyists and corporate donors. Catherine Cortez Masto, she just isn't working.
There's the Nevada way. Work hard, play by the rules, pay your taxes. And then there's the Danny Tarkanian way. Penalized for failing to pay thousands in property taxes. Ordered by a judge to repay $17 million in a failed development scheme. Worse, Tarkanian refused to pay it back, sticking taxpayers with the bill. The Danny Tarkanian way, the wrong way for Nevada. DCCC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Maybe it's because the director of the FBI said you lied about your email.
There was classified material emailed.
Or maybe it's because your policies have allowed ISIS and terrorism to spread. Or maybe it's because you call Americans deplorable.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Do you really need to ask?
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
Well, this past week's presidential debate marks a new stage in the election season. From now until Election Day, the airwaves are going to be jammed with political ads, but the battleground also rages on another front, cyberspace.
Here's longtime Channel 8 reporter George Knapp with a commentary about what's been clogging his inbox.
It's really not clear how I got on all these email lists, but based on the 50 or so political solicitations I receive every single day, someone somewhere has me pegged as a Democratic, Republican, Libertarian who has strong conservative values from a liberal point of view. Those Paul boys, Ron and Rand, are among the most prolific emailers. I get stuff from them pretty much every day asking for dough. Rand can be both colloquial, hey, he barks, you up? Well, I am now. In the next one, he admonishes me to stop funding terrorists. Okay, I'll stop. I get emails from famous people, too. Newt Gingrich and Herman Cain, Harry Reid and Al Franken. Makes me feel important since we're all on a first-name basis. Some of the emails are from people I've never heard of, running for office, and who knows where. If anyone knows Dr. Raul Ruiz, can you tell him to take me off his email list because I'm not sending him any money. Good grief, who knew there were so many financial deadlines for candidates? Every day, desperate candidates remind me that one or another deadline is fast approaching, and if they don't meet their self-imposed goals, the sky will fall, locusts will engulf humanity, and dogs and cats will be sleeping together. Without question, the stupidest email I've received this year is the one that included a photo of congressional candidate Reuben Kewin sitting in a local restaurant. It just so happens the owner lined his ceiling with various international flags, and Kewin was sitting underneath a flag from Iran. Aha, the email implied. He must have picked that spot on purpose. Seriously? In general, the Democrats are the most dramatic. Horrible news, they tell me. Democrats should panic, they say in another. We're begging you. It's amazing. It's terrible. In the same email. Geez, take a deep breath. They've got this punctuation trick they use a lot. We, period, will, period, fail, period. We, period, are, period, losing, period. Trump, period, will, period, win, period. It makes me wonder who, period, wrote, period, this stuff, period. I've heard from pretty much every member of the Obama family and staffers who say Obama is pleading with me, begging me even. It's unseemly. I did like the email series which enticed me to come and meet the president and maybe have lunch with him. George plus Obama. Yay! The Trump campaign can't seem to make up its mind about me. 1 minute, the Donald is asking me to help him prepare for the debate. He wants me to join him on his plane. His son wants me to join the movement. Then next thing I know, Trump says I'm deplorable. And then he ominously reminds me that he doesn't see my name on his list, which is a tiny bit intimidating. His list? Just when I start to worry about being sent to a gulag, light at the end of the tunnel. Messages from Ivanka Trump. She says she'd love to meet me. Oh? Then she says she wants to have coffee, and I feel, are things maybe moving too fast? Then she says she's made a video and she's sending it to me so I can see it. Ivanka now has my full attention. I'm George Knapp.
Well, coming next, what the presidential candidates need to do to improve.
Well, I looked at the debate objectively, watched it for every second, and I felt that if I scored a 55-45 for Hillary. I thought that she came out just a little bit ahead. Let me put it this way, I think that he came out a little bit less. I don't think he prepared for the debate as much as he could have. Somebody told me when I got into media over 35 years ago, my first producer, one of the most important things I've ever learned and kept with me all these years, you always rehearse. You do it before or during a performance, but you always rehearse.
Our face-off panel takes on the first and the next presidential debates.
And the rise of the stadium opposition. I'll tell you about the first real opposition to a potential NFL stadium here in Las Vegas.
I was proud to stand for our country. I will not stand for Congressman Hardy and Donald Trump insulting seniors and veterans. Hardy wants to raise the retirement age and said seniors who rely on programs like Social Security are a draw on government, and the disabled are a drain on society. And then there's Donald Trump.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured.
They're just not for us.
DCCC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I'm Jackie Rosen, and as a computer programmer, I created apps before they were called apps, and I learned there's always a smart solution. As president of my synagogue, we found a smart solution to rising energy costs, creating one of the largest solar projects in the state. In Congress, I'll work with Democrats and Republicans to make all of Nevada a leader in solar, to improve our schools and create good jobs. I approve this message because I know we can find smart solutions, even in Washington.
One of the areas that I've been particularly interested in is the area of children.
We intend to be sure that everybody in this room and every child in this state is somebody.
No matter where they're born, no matter to whom they are born,
I want to make sure that every child
has a chance to live up to his or her God-given potential.
I've spent my life fighting for children, and I'm not stopping now.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I've always approved this message.
We know every inch of this city, been to every corner, learned all the ins and outs. We know the people to call, the questions to ask, and how to spot a bluff. It's what makes us the Valley's most watched, the Valley's most trusted. Because on stories, great and small, what we know can't be matched. We are 8 News Now, the Valley's news leader.
Well, the first presidential debate is in the books. Our face-off panel, KXNT radio host Alan Stock from the right and Battleborn Progress Executive Director Annette Magnus from the left, both agree Clinton won round 1. So what do the candidates need to do to win round 2? Take a look.
CNN's Anderson Cooper will moderate the second debate. Will it be his job this time around then to ask those follow-up questions, and maybe that's a softball, but more specifically, does he need to draw those answers out from both of them?
Absolutely. Both of them should be asked specifics about their policies, specifics about their plans, follow-up questions on those specifics if they're not giving adequate answers. And I believe, I hope that Anderson Cooper will do that. I think he's a good journalist, and I think he will do that. I think they're learning from the mistakes of previous debates. They're looking at what worked, what didn't work, and I'm hoping those moderators are kind of taking that lesson and applying it to the next debate. I think you see them go after both of them and really ask for specifics. And I hope he doesn't let the sparring happen like he did. I think you do see, I hope Trump will go home and look at that debate, watch his face on the split screen, because that was a whole nother issue he needs to deal with. I mean, she is used to doing debates. She is used to being on split screen. She has done these things before. This is not the first time for her. And so he needs to better prepare. I mean, I think that is the takeaway from this. And him criticizing her for being prepared, that is not a good criticism, because you need a president who's prepared. That's what people are looking for. They're looking for someone to present themselves professionally, and he just didn't do that in this debate.
In all fairness, he did not criticize her at all for being prepared. What he did criticize her for was not being on the campaign trail for 6 or 7 days, not being prepared. And then she came back and said, she had a good line. I mean, she said, I was preparing for the debate, and I was preparing to become president of the United States. I mean, she had a good line, and it was a rehearsed line, but it was still a good line. And how did she get it? Because she rehearsed.
Right.
And she knew what so he didn't criticize her on that, but there were so many things he could have, and he did not do. Anderson Cooper is a Democrat and a liberal, period, end of story. Will he be fair? I hope so. I've seen him moderate other debates. I saw him in 12 here in Las Vegas. I was in the Sands when he moderated the Republicans who were on the stage, and I thought he was very fair. I'm hoping he will be fair, and if he does follow-up questions, I want him to be equal on follow-up questions. So when he says to Trump or to Hillary, listen, be specific. Hillary, how are you going to pay for this free education? Where's the money going to come from? And Trump, he wants to go to him and say, how are you going to pay for the wall or whatever the case happens to be? Let him push for specifics equally on both of them. I'll respect him if he does that. I think Chris Wallace from Fox News, who was moderating the last debate, will probably be the fairest of them all. Not because he's a liberal or a conservative. I've seen his style, and I think he is a much more moderate type of an interviewer, and that's here in Las Vegas. And you're right, this is a purple state, as they say. So I mean, this is the best debate of the season, I believe, is going to be on October 19th.
You can watch a lot more debate about what went right and wrong with the first debate on our website at LasVegasNow.com. Patrick?
Thank you, Steve. It's time now for The Race Now, where we take you through the other big local stories happening this week. Clark County commissioners have appointed 2 lawmakers as legislative fill-ins for a special session coming up on paying for an NFL stadium. They're Democratic former Assemblywoman Stephanie Smith and Republican Kyle Stevens. Here's Commissioner Steve Sisolak on what was and wasn't considered when those seats were filled.
Are they pro stadium or do they stand, do you know?
I do not know where they stand on the stadium. That wasn't a litmus test issue. They're basically caretakers for a month and a half here until the election in November, and then they'll be out of office. So it's going to be a short frame that they're going to be in there, and the issues that they're going to deal with as we get up to Carson City. So they'll have to vote their conscience.
The anti-stadium deal forces got out and coming out of the woodwork this week. The Nevada Taxpayers Association came out against it, and a nonprofit dubbing itself Nevadans for Common Good also says it's a hidden risk for taxpayers.
Cincinnati is a city which went through a similar thing, and it had to cut projects and investments to pay off its debt for the Paul Brown Stadium, where the Bengals play.
Well, the governor says the special session to vote on the deal will be sometime between October 7th and October 13th. We've been told, at least we haven't officially been told when it will start, but we're assuming it's going to be the 10th based on sources. And election officials are urging everyone to sign up to receive their election sample ballots by email. About 11,000 have chosen that option so far. It's expected to save the county, about $15,000 in printing and postage costs. There are about 950,000 active registered voters in the Las Vegas area. So just imagine how much that would save if even half signed up for emails. You can sign up on the Clark County election website by October 8th. We have a simple and helpful link for that on our website, lasvegasnow.com, to help you find it. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Your mother, your father, the elderly are easy targets for exploitation. As Attorney General, Catherine Cortez Masto ignored complaints about a guardianship program for seniors the Review Journal called ripe for abuse. Seniors were exploited, robbed of their savings, prisoners in their own homes. Despite appeals from their families, Catherine Cortez Masto looked the other way. Catherine Cortez Masto let Nevada seniors down. Freedom Partners Action Fund is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I'm Catherine Cortez Masto, and I approve this message. As a doctor, I see how decisions in Washington impact my patients here in Nevada. So even though I'm a Republican, I won't be voting for Joe Heck. Joe Heck's voted 10 times to defund Planned Parenthood, which thousands of women depend on for cancer screenings. And Heck opposes a woman's right to choose, even when her health is at risk. For me and my patients, Joe Heck makes no sense.
Why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Maybe it's because the director of the FBI said you lied about your email.
There was classified material emailed.
Or maybe it's because your policies have allowed ISIS and terrorism to spread. Or maybe it's because you call Americans deplorable.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Do you really need to ask?
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
When I was 1 year old, I was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer on my spinal cord. But I spent my whole life fighting back. So you can imagine what I thought when I saw Donald Trump say,
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
That reporter he is talking about suffers from a chronic condition that impairs movement of his arms.
I don't want a president who makes fun of me. I want a president who inspires me. And that's not Donald Trump.
Priorities USA Action is responsible for the content of this advertising.
For What to Watch, where we tell you about the big political stories to keep an eye on this week. The first vice presidential debate will be on Tuesday. It'll be in Farmville, Virginia. The showdown between Mike Pence and Tim Kaine starts at 6 o'clock, and of course you can watch it right here on Channel 8.
And Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine will be back here campaigning on Thursday, talking about the economy. The venue and time, not yet been announced.
Also creeping up on us, the deadline to register to vote.
Yeah, absolutely. That's October 8th by mail. You can still register online or in person October 18th.
October 18th.
Those deadlines are coming up. Thanks for watching Politics Now. You can email us at politics@lasvegasnow.com if you have questions, comments, or suggestions on anything we should put on the show.
And don't forget, we are your local election headquarters for the next year. You can stay up to date online and watch us every Sunday as we continue to bring you all of the big stories happening in politics each and every week. We'll see you next Sunday.